Westbrook Academy's marble hallways echoed with privilege as Marcus Johnson collected another perfect score in chemistry. His second-hand clothes and worn-out shoes stood out sharply among classmates wearing designer labels. "Look at the bus rider pretending he belongs here," Bradley Winchester announced, shoving Marcus into the lockers. "My father's name is on the science building. What's your dad's name on? The food stamp line?" The bullies laughed, never noticing how Marcus's eyes narrowed, not with fear, but with calculation. Each insult became another data point. They were so confident in their family names protecting them that they completely overlooked the quiet student methodically constructing a plan that would use their own arrogance as the perfect mechanism for their downfall. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Marcus Johnson clutched the strap of his backpack as he stood before the wrought iron gates of Westbrook Academy. The morning sun glinted off the massive windows of the main building, a structure that looked more like a small college campus than a high school. Students streamed past him in designer clothes, many emerging from luxury vehicles that cost more than his mother's annual salary. "You've got this," he whispered to himself, repeating his mother's words from breakfast. "They gave you that scholarship because you earned it." The interior of Westbrook was even more intimidating. Gleaming marble floors, wood-paneled walls adorned with oil paintings of distinguished alumni, and trophy cases filled with academic and athletic awards. Marcus checked his schedule, printed on the back of his orientation packet, and made his way toward his first class, advanced chemistry. He found a seat near the front, arranging his second-hand textbook and notebook carefully. The classroom filled quickly with students who seemed to know each other well, their conversations flowing around him like water around a stone. "Is anyone sitting here?" asked a voice. Marcus looked up to see an Asian boy gesturing to the empty chair beside him. "No," Marcus replied. "It's free. I'm James." "First day too? That obvious, huh?" Marcus smiled slightly. "I'm Marcus." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their teacher, Ms. Rivera, a woman in her early 30s with intelligent eyes and a confident stride. "Welcome to advanced chemistry," she announced. "I don't believe in wasting time, so let's begin with a brief assessment to see what you already know. As Mrs. ZZ Rivera distributed the test papers, Marcus felt a prickle on the back of his neck. He turned slightly to find 3 boys staring at him from the back row. The tallest one, with perfectly styled blonde hair, whispered something that made the others snicker. Marcus focused on his test, answering the questions methodically. Chemistry had always been his strongest subject, and his previous school's science teacher had given him extra materials to study. When Ms. Rivera called time, he was one of the first to finish. As they filed out of the classroom, Marcus overheard snippets of conversation. "Did you see the charity case? Doesn't even have the right uniform. Probably can't afford it." He gripped his backpack tighter and moved faster through the hallway, but a foot suddenly extended in his path. Marcus stumbled, but caught himself before falling. "Oops," said the blond boy with mock concern. "Didn't see you there." "No problem," Marcus replied evenly, meeting the boy's gaze. "I'm Bradley Winchester," the boy said, as if announcing royalty. "This is Tyler and Ethan." He gestured to his companions, one muscular with dark hair, the other slender with glasses. "And you are—" "Marcus Johnson." "Johnson," Bradley repeated, drawing out the name. "And what does your father do, Johnson?" Marcus hesitated. "I live with my mom. She's a nurse." The 3 exchanged glances. "Well," Bradley said with a smirk, "it's so inspirational that Westbrook has these diversity initiatives. Isn't that right, guys?" "So inspiring," echoed Tyler, the muscular one. "Really brings a tear to my eye." Ethan, the one with glasses, just nodded, a half smile on his face. Marcus felt heat rising in his chest, but kept his expression neutral. "I should get to my next class." "Of course," Bradley replied. "Wouldn't want you to miss anything. Your kind needs all the help you can get." As Marcus walked away, their laughter echoed down the corridor. He'd faced prejudice before, but never in such an environment where he was so completely outnumbered. The scholarship that had seemed like such a blessing suddenly felt like a sentence. The rest of the day passed in a blur of new faces, elaborate facilities, and the growing realization of just how different this world was from his own. When the final bell rang, Marcus found himself mentally exhausted. Outside, while waiting for his bus, he spotted his mother's aging sedan pulling into the pickup lane. She must have switched shifts to surprise him on his first day. The sight of her familiar face, creased with a proud smile, brought the first genuine feeling of warmth he'd experienced all day. "How was it?" Diane Johnson asked, as he slid into the passenger seat. Marcus considered telling her about Bradley and his friends, but decided against it. Why worry her? "It was fine," he said instead. "The classes seem good, challenging." "That's my boy," she replied, squeezing his hand. Always up for a challenge. As they drove away from Westbrook's manicured grounds, Marcus stared out the window, wondering what tomorrow would bring and how long it would be before he truly belonged. Or if he ever would. 2 weeks into the semester, Marcus settled into a routine. He woke at 5:30 each morning to catch the early bus, arriving at Westbrook with enough time to review his notes before classes began. The academic challenges energized him, particularly in Ms. Rivera's chemistry class. "Marcus, would you explain to the class how you arrived at this solution?" Ms. Rivera asked, gesturing to his work on a complex equation. Marcus stood, acutely aware of the 23 pairs of eyes on him. "I applied the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, but modified the approach to account for the additional variables in the buffer solution." "Ms. Rivera nodded approvingly. "Excellent! That's university-level thinking." As he sat down, Marcus caught Bradley rolling his eyes at Tyler. After class, Ms. Rivera called him to her desk. "You have a remarkable aptitude for chemistry, Marcus. Have you considered the Science Olympiad team?" "I hadn't thought about it," he admitted. "You should. Applications are due next week." She lowered her voice. "Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong here. Your mind earned you that spot." Marcus nodded gratefully before heading to his next class. In the hallway, James fell into step beside him. "Rivera seems to like you." "I guess so." "You should join Science Olympiad. I'm applying too. Computer Science Division." "Maybe I will," Marcus replied, feeling a tentative connection forming. Their conversation was interrupted by a shoulder slamming into Marcus, sending his books scattering across the floor. "Watch it, scholarship," Bradley sneered, Tyler and Ethan flanking him like bodyguards. Marcus knelt to gather his materials, James helping silently. "Nice shoes," Bradley continued, pointing at Marcus's worn sneakers. "Did you get those at the donation center, or did Mommy have to work extra shifts?" Marcus kept his face impassive, though his hands trembled slightly with suppressed anger. "What's wrong?" "No comeback?" Tyler taunted. "I thought you were supposed to be smart." "Leave him alone," James said quietly. Bradley's attention swiveled. "Look, guys, the charity cases are sticking together." "How cute!" Ethan laughed, though his eyes darted uncomfortably around the hallway. "We'll be late for class," Marcus said to James, ignoring the trio as they stood. "This isn't over, Johnson," Bradley called after them. "Not by a long shot." At lunch, Marcus and James claimed a corner table in the cafeteria. "Don't let them get to you," James advised, opening his packed lunch. "Bradley's father donates millions to the school. They think it makes them untouchable. What's his problem anyway?" James shrugged. "You're different. You're smart. Either one would be enough, but both? That threatens his whole worldview." Marcus picked at his subsidized meal. I'm not trying to threaten anyone. That doesn't matter to him, James replied. Just watch your back. Last year, another scholarship kid transferred out after just one semester. Nobody talks about why. The warning lingered in Marcus's mind throughout the afternoon classes, and during the long bus ride home to a neighborhood that couldn't be more different from Westbrook's manicured opulence. At home, Marcus found his mother already in the kitchen, a rare early evening off from her hospital shift. "There he is," Diane smiled, stirring something fragrant on the stove. "My Westbrook scholar." Marcus dropped his backpack and hugged her. "You're home early." "Switched with Loretta. Thought we could have dinner together for once." She studied his face. "Everything okay at that fancy school?" "Yeah, just tired." He attempted a reassuring smile. "The work is challenging, but I'm handling it." "Tell me something good that happened today," she said, their usual ritual. Marcus thought for a moment. "My chemistry teacher thinks I should join the Science Olympiad team." Diane's face lit up. "That's wonderful. You always did have a knack for that scientific stuff." "It would mean staying late some days for practice," Marcus cautioned. "We'll make it work," she insisted, squeezing his shoulder. "This is your opportunity, Marcus. A door to a different future." Later that night, as Marcus worked through his calculus homework at the small desk in his bedroom, his phone pinged with a text from James. "Submitted Science Olympiad application. You should too. Don't let the trust fund triplets win." Marcus smiled faintly, then opened his laptop to download the application. The cursor hovered over the submit button as doubt crept in. Was he setting himself up for more confrontation? But his mother's words echoed in his mind. "This is your opportunity." He clicked submit. The next morning, Bradley and his friends were waiting near Marcus's locker. Bradley wore a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Heard you're trying out for Science Olympiad," he said conversationally. "Pretty ambitious for someone who doesn't even belong at this school." Marcus focused on exchanging his books. "I'm not bothering you, Bradley. Why don't you just leave me alone?" "Because you're the one who doesn't get it." Bradley stepped closer, voice dropping. "This isn't your world. You're just visiting. And soon enough, you'll be gone like all the others." For the first time, Marcus met his gaze directly. "We'll see about that." Something in Marcus's calm defiance seemed to unnerve Bradley momentarily. He recovered with a scoff, nodding to his friends as they moved away. James appeared at Marcus's side. "What was that about?" "Just making things clear," Marcus replied, closing his locker. "I'm not going anywhere." A month into the semester, the harassment evolved from verbal jabs to calculated humiliation. Marcus opened his locker one morning to find it filled with crumpled food wrappers and a crude note. "Thought you might be hungry, charity case." James witnessed Marcus silently cleaning the mess. "This is getting worse. You should report them." "And then what?" Marcus replied, his voice tight. "Bradley's dad practically owns a wing of this school. Tyler's father is Judge Prescott. Who do you think they'll believe?" In the bathroom later that day, Marcus was washing his hands when the door slammed open. Bradley, Tyler, and Ethan filed in, effectively blocking the exit. "Nice presentation in economics," Bradley said, leaning against the sink. "All that talk about income inequality. Hit close to home, did it?" Marcus dried his hands, calculating his options. "Excuse me," he said evenly, moving toward the door. Tyler stepped into his path. "We're not done talking." "I liked how you used your mom as an example," Bradley continued, his tone deceptively conversational. "Single mother, working 2 jobs. Very touching. Did you leave out the part about your father walking out because he couldn't stand looking at you?" Marcus felt a flash of white-hot anger. "Don't talk about my family." "Oh, did I hit a nerve?" Bradley's smile was predatory. "Wonder what else makes you tick." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "We'll be late for Rivera's class." "Who cares?" Tyler dismissed. but Bradley surprisingly nodded. "You're right. Wouldn't want to miss chemistry. Coming, scholarship?" The false politeness was worse than outright hostility. In chemistry, Ms. Rivera announced a pop quiz, followed by a competitive group exercise. "I'll divide you into teams. The first to correctly solve these advanced equilibrium problems will earn extra credit." She assigned Marcus to a group with James and 2 other students, while Bradley, Tyler, and Ethan formed another team with a 4th classmate, who looked intimidated by their presence. "Begin!" Ms. Rivera announced. Marcus's group huddled immediately, with Marcus guiding them through the complex problems methodically. Across the room, Bradley's team seemed more focused on their phones than the assignment. 20 minutes later, Marcus's group submitted their solutions. Ms. Rivera checked their work, smiling broadly. "Perfect. Team 1 earns the extra credit." As other groups continued working, Bradley lounged in his chair, whispering to Tyler. Ms. Rivera noticed. "Mr. Winchester, since you appear to have time for conversation, perhaps you'd like to explain to the class how you would approach problem 3. Bradley straightened, smirking. "I'd apply the basic equilibrium formula." "Which is?" Ms. Rivera pressed. Bradley's confidence faltered. "The one with concentration over time." Laughter rippled through the classroom. Ms. Rivera's expression remained neutral. "Perhaps Mr. Johnson could assist, since his team has already completed the exercise correctly." Marcus hesitated, aware of Bradley's glare burning into him. But an opportunity to demonstrate his knowledge overrode his caution. "For multivariable equilibrium problems like this," Marcus explained, standing, "you need to apply the Gibbs free energy equation across all reaction stages, accounting for enthalpy and entropy changes under non-standard conditions." He proceeded to break down the solution step by step, his explanation clear and comprehensive. Several students nodded in understanding, while Bradley's face darkened with each word. "Excellent explanation, Marcus," Ms. Rivera commended. "That's precisely the level of understanding I expect in this class." As the bell rang, Bradley knocked his textbook to the floor deliberately. "Show off," he hissed as Marcus passed. During lunch, Marcus sat alone, James having gone to the library to study. He sensed movement behind him seconds before a carton of milk emptied over his head, drenching his shirt and homework. "Oops," Tyler said loudly, as the cafeteria erupted in laughter. "Spilled my milk. Guess you really do cry over it." Marcus stood, milk dripping onto his shoes. He grabbed his soaked papers without a word and walked out, aware of the stares following him. In the bathroom, he did his best to clean up, fighting back frustrated tears. His mother had worked overtime to afford his uniform, and now it was ruined. The final bell couldn't come soon enough. Marcus hurried toward the bus stop, taking a shortcut through the athletic fields to avoid any further encounters. He almost made it when he heard footsteps behind him. "Going somewhere, Johnson?" Bradley's voice called out. Marcus turned to find the 3 boys forming a semicircle around him. Far from the main buildings, with sports practices not yet started, the field was deserted. "I need to catch my bus," Marcus said firmly. "After what you pulled in chemistry?" Bradley stepped closer. "Making us look stupid?" "You didn't need my help with that," Marcus retorted before he could stop himself. Bradley's eyes widened momentarily before narrowing. "Hold him," he instructed Tyler and Ethan. Marcus swung his backpack defensively, catching Tyler in the chest, but Ethan grabbed him from behind. Despite Marcus's struggle, the 2 boys pinned his arms. "You think you're better than us?" Bradley's first punch landed against Marcus's stomach, driving the air from his lungs. "Smarter?" Another blow. "You're nothing!" Marcus kicked out, connecting with Bradley's knee. The larger boy stumbled backward with a curse. "You're going to regret that," Bradley snarled, nodding to Tyler, who delivered a sharp jab to Marcus's ribs. When they finally released him, Marcus collapsed to the ground, curling protectively around his midsection. Bradley knelt beside him, voice low and threatening. "Next time you embarrass me, it'll be worse. Remember your place, scholarship." The three walked away, leaving Marcus on the damp grass, tasting blood and humiliation as he struggled to his feet. He had missed his bus. His homework was ruined. His uniform was stained with milk, and now dirt. But something else had crystallized within him. A cold, clear resolve. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Marcus dragged himself to the bus stop on the main road, wincing with each step. The late bus wouldn't arrive for another 30 minutes. Gingerly, he lowered himself onto the bench, taking shallow breaths to minimize the pain in his ribs. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Working late shift. Dinner in fridge. Love you." At least he wouldn't have to explain his appearance immediately. He examined his reflection in his phone's dark screen. A split lip, dirt-streaked face, but no black eye, thankfully. The worst bruises were hidden beneath his shirt. Across town, Bradley slid into the leather passenger seat of his father's Audi. "Good day?" Mr. Winchester asked absently, eyes on his phone. "Great day," Bradley replied, a satisfied smile playing at his lips. "Really productive." "That's my boy. Speaking of productive, I told Harrington we'd increase our donation for the new science wing. Perfect timing with college applications coming up. The Winchester name on a building never hurts with the Ivy League." Bradley nodded, thinking of Marcus's pained expression. "Absolutely, Dad. It's all about knowing your advantages and using them." In the faculty lounge, Ms. Rivera gathered her materials. She paused when Principal Harrington entered, engaged in conversation with the athletic director. "The zero-tolerance policy looks good on paper," Harrington was saying, "but we need flexibility with certain students. The Prescott boy is our star lacrosse player, and the Winchesters are funding the new science wing. And Montgomery's mother chairs the board," the athletic director added. "Exactly. Some situations require discretion." Ms. Rivera's grip tightened on her folders. This wasn't the first time she'd overheard such conversations. The next morning, Marcus moved carefully through the hallways, each step sending pain through his bruised ribs. He'd managed to clean his uniform and cover the worst of his facial injuries with his mother's concealer, found under the bathroom sink. James spotted him immediately. "What happened to you?" "Nothing," Marcus muttered. "That's not nothing," James insisted, noting Marcus's stiff movements. "It was them, wasn't it?" Before Marcus could respond, Bradley and his friends rounded the corner. Bradley nodded smugly at Marcus, while Tyler pantomimed a punching motion when no teachers were looking. Ethan at least had the decency to look away. "You need to report this," James urged when they were out of earshot. "And say what? I have no proof. It's their word against mine." Marcus adjusted his backpack, hiding a wince. "Besides, I overheard Bradley's father talking to Harrington last week. Something about a new science wing donation." In chemistry, Ms. Rivera immediately noticed Marcus's condition. After class, she asked him to stay behind. "Marcus, is everything all right?" she asked gently. "Yes, ma'am. Just clumsy." The lie felt bitter on his tongue. Ms. Rivera studied him, unconvinced. "If someone is bothering you—" "I'm fine," Marcus insisted. "Really?" She sighed. "I want to believe that. But I've been at Westbrook long enough to recognize patterns." She hesitated, then continued in a lower voice. "Last year, a bright student like you transferred out mid-semester. Anthony Garcia. Brilliant mathematician." Marcus remained silent. Before him, there was Zoe Wilson, both scholarship students. Ms. Rivera's expression grew troubled. "Both allegedly left for personal reasons, but I saw the bruises on Anthony before he disappeared." "What happened to them?" Marcus asked quietly. "The official story?" Family relocated, financial difficulties, but I heard Anthony's parents threatened a lawsuit that mysteriously went away after a sizable, anonymous donation to their moving expenses. She met his eyes directly. Westbrook has a zero-tolerance policy against bullying on paper, but certain students seem exempt. The bell rang, signaling the next period. "I should go," Marcus said, gathering his books. "Marcus," Ms. Rivera stopped him. "Whatever you're dealing with, be careful. And know that not every teacher here values donations over students." As he limped to his next class, Marcus's mind raced. Anthony Garcia, Zoe Wilson. Names that had been erased from Westbrook's pristine narrative. How many others had there been? In the library during his free period, Marcus searched the school's online yearbooks. Anthony's sophomore picture stared back at him. A dark-haired boy with a hesitant smile. The junior yearbook had no trace of him. Further searching revealed an old-school newspaper article about Anthony winning a regional math competition, alongside a quote from Principal Harrington about Westbrook's commitment to nurturing talent regardless of background. Marcus closed the browser, a plan beginning to take shape in his mind. They thought they'd broken him, shown him his place. But they had only shown him exactly what he needed to see, how the system worked, and how it could be turned against them. "You're not seriously considering fighting back, are you?" James asked, voice low as they sat in a secluded corner of the school library. 3 days had passed since the assault, and Marcus's physical pain had dulled to a persistent ache. "Not physically," Marcus replied, sliding his notebook toward James. Inside were meticulous notes on Bradley, Tyler, and Ethan, their schedules, routines, and patterns he'd observed. James whistled softly. "This is thorough, almost scary." "Know your enemy," Marcus quoted. "They think they're untouchable because of their parents. But everyone has weaknesses. What exactly are you planning?" Marcus hesitated. "I'm not sure yet. But when those 3 got away with attacking me, it wasn't their first time. They've driven others out of Westbrook. I'm looking for a way to expose them that can't be covered up or dismissed." James pulled out his laptop, checking to ensure no one was watching. "I might be able to help with that. I have access to the school network." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "How?" "Last semester, I helped the IT administrator update some systems. He's not very security-minded." James typed rapidly. "The school keeps digital records of everything. Incident reports, complaint filings, even emails between administrators about disciplinary measures. Can you find anything about Anthony Garcia or Zoe Wilson?" James's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Give me a few days. I don't want to trigger any alarms." Bradley lounged on the leather couch in his family's media room. Tyler and Ethan sprawled in nearby recliners. "Did you see Johnson skulking around today?" Bradley laughed. "Like a beaten dog." Tyler snorted. "Maybe he'll finally get the message and disappear like that Garcia kid." "My father says his parents threatened to sue," Bradley added, scrolling through his phone. "Dad wrote them a check and poof, problem solved." Ethan frowned slightly. "Don't you think we went too far?" He was bleeding. "Please," Bradley dismissed. "He embarrassed us in front of the entire class. He got what he deserved." "Besides," Tyler added, "it's not like anyone cares. The scholarship trash come and go. We're the ones who matter here." Ethan said nothing, but his discomfort was evident in his silence. "Stop being such a wuss, Ethan," Bradley chided. "Your mom's on the board. You're one of us, remember? Not one of them." Ethan nodded, but his eyes remained troubled. "Tohit." The next day, Marcus approached Ms. Rivera after class. "I've been thinking about what you said," he began carefully, "about Anthony Garcia and Zoe Wilson." Ms. Rivera closed the classroom door. "And? I need to understand how the system works here. If something happens, who decides what goes into the official record?" She studied him with concern. Incidents are supposed to be documented by the witnessing teacher, then reviewed by Principal Harrington. Serious infractions go to the disciplinary committee, which includes 2 board members and 3 faculty representatives. She paused. In theory. And in practice? In practice, Harrington has final say on what reaches the committee. Certain incidents involving prominent families tend to be handled administratively. Marcus nodded slowly. So, a student's word against Winchester or Prescott would likely go nowhere, she confirmed, unless there was irrefutable evidence or multiple witnesses willing to speak up. Marcus absorbed this. What if the evidence came from them directly? Something they couldn't deny? Ms. Rivera's expression grew alarmed. Marcus, be careful. Whatever you're thinking, I'm just trying to protect myself, he assured her, not entirely truthfully. Evidence only works when the system wants it to, she warned. And at Westbrook, the system is heavily influenced by donor names on buildings. After school, Marcus walked the campus with new purpose, noting security camera placements, blind spots, and gathering areas. He timed how long it took administrators to respond to disturbances and identified which teachers patrolled which areas during lunch periods. He made a careful note when he discovered Bradley and his friends regularly gathered behind the fieldhouse to smoke, a clear violation of school policy, but in a camera blind spot. James met him by his locker the following morning, expression serious. I found something, he whispered, passing Marcus a USB drive. Emails about Garcia. They're enlightening, and there were 6 others before him in the past 3 years, all scholarship students. 6? Marcus repeated, pocketing the drive. 6 that filed complaints, all transferred out within a semester. Most involved the same 3 names. Marcus's fingers closed around the drive. This isn't just about me anymore. No, James agreed solemnly. It never was. Marcus was careless, reaching for the cereal. His shirt rode up, revealing the yellowish-purple bruising along his ribs, bruises that after nearly a week were still vividly apparent. Diane Johnson froze in the kitchen doorway, her nurse's eyes immediately assessing the injury. Marcus Alexander Johnson. What is that? He quickly tugged his shirt down. It's nothing, Mom. Don't you dare. Her voice was tight with controlled fury. Lift your shirt. Now. Reluctantly, Marcus complied. His mother's sharp intake of breath told him everything. Who did this to you? The calm in her voice was more frightening than yelling would have been. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Diane set her coffee mug down with enough force to slosh liquid over the rim. Someone hurt my child. It matters. Was it at school? Marcus's silence was answer enough. I'm calling Principal Harrington right now. She reached for her phone. Mom, don't! Marcus's voice cracked with unexpected emotion. Please, you'll only make it worse. Worse? How could it be worse than my son being beaten and hiding it from me? Because they'll just deny it, and their parents will back them up, and then they'll know I told. His words tumbled out in a rush. The principal won't do anything. There have been other kids before me. Diane sank into a kitchen chair. Tell me everything. Marcus explained about Bradley, Tyler, and Ethan, about Anthony Garcia and the others, about the pattern of harassment that the school had systematically covered up. So I'm just supposed to do nothing while these entitled brats hurt my son? Her hands trembled with helpless rage. No, Marcus said firmly. I have a plan, but I need you to trust me. A plan. She studied him carefully. What kind of plan? The less you know right now, the better. But I promise it's nothing dangerous. And nothing illegal. I just need time. Diane was silent for a long moment. 2 weeks, she finally said. You've got 2 weeks. After that, I'm going to that school, and God help anyone who tries to stop me. At school, Bradley seemed to be everywhere. watching Marcus in the hallways, bumping into him between classes, making pointed comments just loud enough for him to hear. "Keeping secrets, Johnson?" Bradley whispered as they passed in the cafeteria. Not very smart. Marcus maintained his composure, but inside, alarm bells were ringing. Could Bradley somehow know about his investigation? Later, as Marcus retrieved books from his locker, Ethan approached alone. An unusual occurrence. "They know you've been asking questions," Ethan said quietly, pretending to check his phone. "About Garcia. And you're warning me because—" Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "They're planning something. I don't know what exactly, but—" "Be careful." Before Marcus could press further, Ethan walked away, merging into the crowd of students. During last period, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from James. "Computer lab. Now." Marcus found James hunched over a monitor, face pale. "Someone tried to access my school account. They might know I've been in the system. Could they trace it back to what you found?" "I don't think so, but we can't be too careful." James handed Marcus a memory card. "I made copies of everything. The originals are hidden securely." Marcus pocketed the card. "We need to accelerate the timeline." "What's the play here exactly?" James asked. "They think they're above the rules. I need to create a situation where they break those rules so publicly, so undeniably, that not even their parents can make it disappear." "That's vague." "Because I'm still working out the details." Marcus lowered his voice. "But it involves their usual smoke spot behind the field house, the upcoming chemistry midterm, and their desperate need to maintain their GPAs for college applications." That evening, a black SUV with tinted windows drove slowly past Marcus's modest home. Twice. From his bedroom window, Marcus recognized the vehicle, the same one that dropped Bradley off at school some mornings when his father was driving. His phone pinged with a text from an unknown number. "We see you." Marcus closed his curtains, mind racing. They were trying to intimidate him into silence. But they didn't understand. Silence was what had allowed them to victimize others before him. Silence was what they counted on to maintain their power. And silence was exactly what he would not give them. Marcus sat alone in his bedroom, surrounded by notes and diagrams. His plan was taking shape, elegant in its simplicity, devastating in its potential consequences. But as he reviewed each step, doubt crept in. Was he becoming like them? Using intelligence as a weapon, manipulating circumstances to hurt others? "They deserve it," he whispered to the empty room. "They've hurt so many before me." Yet his mother's voice echoed in his mind. "Always take the high road, Marcus. Not because others deserve it, but because you deserve to be someone you respect." Would she respect the plan he was crafting? Would he? His phone buzzed with another anonymous message. Scholarship trash should know their place. Anger pushed back against his moral qualms. His bruises had barely faded. 6 students before him had been driven out. How many more would follow if he did nothing? The next day in chemistry, Ms. Rivera announced their midterm project. "You'll be synthesizing compounds and documenting the process. I've assigned lab partners." She read from her list. "Chen and Wilson, Montgomery and Johnson." Marcus's head snapped up. "Ethan Montgomery?" He glanced across the room to find Ethan looking equally surprised. "Winchester and Prescott," Ms. Rivera continued, ignoring the smug fist bump Bradley and Tyler exchanged. After class, Marcus approached Ms. Rivera's desk. "About the lab partners." "Not negotiable," she said firmly, then lowered her voice. "Something's brewing, Marcus. The tension between you and those boys is affecting the entire class. Whatever's happening, this arrangement might help diffuse it." "Or make it worse," he countered. "Maybe. But Ethan Montgomery isn't the same as the others." She met his eyes. "Sometimes people surprise you when given the chance to choose differently." Marcus considered her words. You've been watching all along, haven't you? Teachers see more than students think. She straightened a stack of papers. I can't intervene without evidence, but I can create opportunities for change. Ethan sat in his bedroom, staring at the midterm assignment. Partner with Johnson? Bradley would be furious. His phone lit up with a group text from Bradley. We have a problem. Ethan typed hesitantly. The lab assignments? Damn right. Tyler and I will handle our end. You need to get close to Johnson. Find out what he knows. Tyler added, perfect opportunity to mess with his project too. Tank his grade. Ethan's stomach twisted. Academic sabotage was a line they hadn't crossed before. A suspension-worthy offense. Maybe worse. I don't know, guys. Bradley's response was immediate. Don't go soft now. Remember whose side you're on. Ethan set his phone down, remembering Marcus's split lip, the way he'd winced for days afterward. Remembering, too, Anthony Garcia's quiet departure last year. Whose side was he on? Marcus weighed his options. The lab partnership complicated things, potentially giving him access to Ethan, the weakest link in the trio, but also accelerating his timeline. The midterm was in 2 weeks, his mother's deadline. He could move forward with his original plan, gather enough evidence to force action from the disciplinary committee. Safer, but slower, with too many opportunities for interference. Or he could adapt, use this unexpected development to create a scenario where the three would incriminate themselves beyond any possibility of denial or cover-up. Riskier, but potentially more effective. James found him in the library, deliberating. You look like you're plotting world domination. Just school domination, Marcus replied with a grim smile. I heard about the lab partners. Tough break. Or perfect opportunity. Marcus closed his notebook. I've been thinking too small. Working within their rigged system. And now I'm thinking it's time to let them believe they're winning. Marcus's expression hardened. They want to sabotage my project? I'll give them exactly what they expect. The perfect trap. That sounds morally questionable. Marcus leaned back, the weight of the decision evident in his posture. Is it wrong to create a situation where bullies expose themselves as exactly what they are? He shook his head. I've played by the rules, kept quiet, endured. And what has it gotten me? What did it get Anthony Garcia or Zoe Wilson? I'm not saying don't do it, James clarified. I'm asking if you can live with the consequences. For them and for yourself. The question hung between them. Marcus had always seen himself as someone who did the right thing, who earned his achievements honestly. But what was the right thing when the system itself was corrupted? I have to try, he finally said. Not just for me. James nodded slowly. Then, let's make sure you succeed. You're going to let me see your lab notes? Ethan asked skeptically, as Marcus spread his chemistry materials across the library table. We're partners, Marcus replied evenly. These are preliminary calculations for our synthesis. Ethan studied the meticulously organized notebook. These look really good. Were you expecting something else? Ethan's guilty expression answered the question. Marcus pushed the notebook closer. Take pictures if you want. Share them with Bradley and Tyler. I don't care. I wasn't going to... Yes, you were. Marcus's tone remained calm. But here's what you didn't consider. Ms. Rivera assigns different synthesis targets to each team. My calculations won't help them. In fact, following these for their compound would create quite a spectacular failure. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. Why tell me this? Because I'm curious what you'll do with the information. Marcus gathered his belongings. Chemistry midterm testing starts Monday. 3 days from now. James finished uploading the final document to the secure folder they'd created. That's the last of Garcia's emails, he confirmed. 7 complaints filed against Bradley, Tyler, and Ethan over 2 years. All buried. Marcus nodded. Add this. He handed James a USB drive. Security footage from behind the field house. Bradley and his friends smoking. And this, he slid over a second drive, is the recording of Tyler bragging about how his dad took care of his underage drinking citation last summer. Where did you get these? The smoking footage was easy. The maintenance shed camera covers that area, but nobody checks it. The drinking story was just Tyler being careless at a party. Someone I know had it on their phone. James looked impressed. You've been busy. Just thorough, Marcus corrected. Everything in that folder is insurance. Insurance for what? Marcus checked his watch. For what happens next? Bradley scrolled through the photos Ethan had sent, smirking. Johnson's making this too easy. Tyler leaned over his shoulder. These calculations look legit. Of course they do. The scholarship kid needs his grades. Bradley forwarded the images to his private email. We'll use these to create our own brilliant project, and he'll crash and burn with whatever garbage Montgomery helps him produce. What if Rivera realizes we cheated? Please, Bradley scoffed. My father's name is going on the science wing. She wouldn't dare. Principal Harrington frowned at the anonymous email in his inbox. The subject line read, Pattern of Harassment at Westbrook Academy. The message contained links to a cloud folder filled with documents, emails, incident reports, and testimonials from former students, all pointing to a disturbing pattern involving the sons of 3 of Westbrook's most influential families. His first instinct was damage control. These were serious accusations, but Winchester, Prescott, and Montgomery weren't just students. They represented millions in donations and generations of legacy. His finger hovered over the delete button when his secretary buzzed. Mr. Harrington, there's a reporter from the Tribune on line 2. Something about student safety concerns at Westbrook. Harrington froze. How had this reached the press already? His computer pinged with another email, this one from the school board chair, Ethan Montgomery's mother. Subject, Disturbing information. The principal's blood ran cold. Ethan sat alone in his bedroom, his phone buzzing incessantly with texts from Bradley and Tyler. He'd sent them the photos as expected, but hadn't told them what Marcus had said about the different synthesis targets. Should he warn them? The midterm was worth 30% of their grade, if they copied Marcus's work. But then he thought about Marcus's bruised face, about Anthony Garcia being forced to leave school, about all the times he'd stood by silently. His mother's voice interrupted his thoughts. Ethan, can you come downstairs? We need to talk. Her tone sent a chill through him. In their family, that particular cadence meant serious trouble. In the living room, his mother sat rigidly on the couch, her iPad open to an email with multiple attachments. Do you know anything about this? She asked, turning the screen toward him. Ethan's stomach dropped as he recognized screenshots of text conversations, his own with Bradley and Tyler, discussing what they'd done to Marcus. Where did you get those? They were sent to every board member anonymously. Her expression was stone. Please tell me this is some kind of mistake. Ethan swallowed hard. Mom, I can explain. Explain what? That my son has been participating in bullying? That you physically assaulted another student? Her voice cracked with emotion. Do you have any idea what this could do to your future, to our family's reputation? For the first time, Ethan realized that his mother wasn't primarily concerned about what he'd done, but about how it would look. Just like Bradley's father, just like Tyler's, something shifted inside him. Marcus received a text from James. It's done. Everyone got the preliminary evidence. He took a deep breath. Phase 1 complete. The seeds were planted, the authorities alerted, the evidence distributed to multiple sources to prevent any single person from burying it. Now came the real test, the chemistry midterm where Bradley and Tyler would attempt to use his deliberately flawed calculations, not realizing they were walking into a trap of their own making. Sunday evening before the chemistry midterm, Marcus's phone rang. He was surprised to see Ethan's name on the display. "Hello? We need to talk," Ethan said, his voice tight with nervous energy. "Not over the phone. Can you meet me?" An hour later, they sat in a nearly empty coffee shop several miles from either of their neighborhoods. "My mother received evidence," Ethan began without preamble. "Screenshots, emails, everything about what we did to you, what we've done to others." Marcus sipped his coffee, expression neutral. And she's furious, but mostly worried about the scandal." Ethan's hands trembled slightly around his mug. "Bradley and Tyler don't know yet. Their parents are trying to contain it. That won't work this time." "No, it won't," Ethan agreed. "But that's not why I wanted to meet. I need to know. Are those lab calculations you gave me accurate?" Marcus studied him carefully. "Why does it matter?" "Because I think Bradley and Tyler are planning to use them tomorrow. And I think you know that." A tense silence stretched between them. "You've been part of this from the beginning," Marcus finally said. "Why the sudden concern?" Ethan looked away. "I've been thinking about Anthony Garcia and Zoe Wilson. And you." He exhaled sharply. "I never hit you. But I didn't stop them either. I never hit any of the others. But I laughed along. Made them feel unwelcome. Like they didn't belong. And now? Now I'm trying to figure out who I am without Bradley and Tyler defining me." Ethan met Marcus's gaze directly. "Those calculations, if they use them tomorrow, what happens?" Marcus leaned forward. "Nothing dangerous, but their compound will fail spectacularly. Combined with the evidence already circulating, their academic dishonesty will be impossible to ignore or cover up. You set a trap, and I delivered the bait." Ethan's laugh was hollow. "Pretty clever. The choice is still theirs," Marcus pointed out. "They could choose to do their own work." "But they won't." Ethan shook his head. "Bradley's texted me a dozen times today, bragging about how they're going to ace the midterm using the scholarship kids' work while sabotaging our project." "And what about our project?" Ethan reached into his backpack, pulling out a notebook. "I did the calculations myself. They're not as elegant as yours, but they'll work." Marcus raised an eyebrow in surprise. "I've always been decent at chemistry," Ethan admitted. "I just let Bradley and Tyler copy because it was easier than standing up to them." James had spent the weekend ensuring their digital trail was secure. Every piece of evidence they'd gathered was backed up on multiple platforms, set to automatically release to relevant authorities if tampered with. "The school's IT security is a joke," he told Marcus as they met before first period. "But your plan isn't. Are you sure about this?" "Too late to back out now." Marcus nodded toward the administration building, where unusual activity was visible through the windows. "Something's happening already." "Montgomery Family Damage Control," James guessed. "Word is his mom called an emergency board meeting for this afternoon. After the chemistry midterm, perfect timing. Ms." Rivera sensed the unusual tension as her students filed into the lab. Bradley and Tyler appeared confident, exchanging smug glances. Marcus and Ethan worked with quiet focus at their station. The other students seemed to sense the undercurrents, giving both groups a wide berth. "You have 90 minutes to complete your synthesis and documentation," she announced. "Begin now." She circulated among the lab stations, pausing longer than necessary near Bradley and Tyler. Their setup matched their assigned compound, but the calculations on their worksheet looked suspiciously familiar, exactly as Marcus had predicted. Principal Harrington spent the morning in frantic conference calls. 3 board members had received the damning evidence. So had 2 local reporters. The school's legal counsel warned of potential lawsuits if they didn't address the pattern of harassment. Winchester and Prescott were threatening their own legal action if their sons faced consequences without due process. Montgomery was pressing for immediate action to distance her son from the others. It was unraveling rapidly, and for once, Harrington couldn't see a way to make it disappear. His secretary interrupted his thoughts. "Sir, Ms. Rivera is on the line. There's an incident in the chemistry lab. She says you need to see it personally." As the chemistry midterm reached its final minutes, Marcus met Ethan's eyes across their shared workbench. Their synthesis was proceeding perfectly. Across the room, Bradley and Tyler's compound had developed a strange purple hue, entirely different from the clear solution they were supposed to produce. "Something's wrong," Tyler muttered, panic edging into his voice. Bradley glared in Marcus's direction. "That lying scholarship trash gave us the wrong formula." Their increasingly desperate attempts to correct their work drew Ms. Rivera's attention. "Is there a problem, gentlemen?" she asked. Bradley's face flushed with anger. "Johnson sabotaged us. He gave Montgomery fake calculations." "Interesting accusation," Ms. Rivera replied calmly, "especially since each team has a different synthesis target." The color drained from Bradley's face as the implications sank in. "Unless," Ms. Rivera continued, "you were attempting to use another team's work as your own?" The lab fell silent as every student turned to watch the unfolding drama. "Mr. Winchester, perhaps you'd like to explain why you're using calculations designed for a completely different synthesis?" "Mrs. East." Rivera's voice cut through the tense silence of the lab. Bradley's face contorted with rage. "Ask Johnson. He set us up." Principal Harrington appeared in the doorway, surveying the scene with growing alarm. "What's happening here, Ms. Rivera?" Before she could answer, Bradley pointed accusingly at Marcus. "He sabotaged our midterm project. He tricked Montgomery into giving us fake formulas." All eyes turned to Ethan, who stood frozen beside Marcus. "Is this true, Mr. Montgomery?" Principal Harrington asked. The moment stretched, heavy with consequence. Ethan looked from his longtime friends to Marcus, then back to the principal. "No, sir," he finally said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I never gave them any formulas. In fact, they've been planning to steal Marcus's work for days." Bradley's mouth fell open. "You lying?" "I have the texts," Ethan continued, pulling out his phone, "where they discussed copying his work and sabotaging his project, where they talked about beating him up behind the field house, where they bragged about forcing out other scholarship students." Tyler lunged toward Ethan, but Ms. Rivera stepped between them. "Mr. Prescott, control yourself." "You backstabbing traitor," Tyler shouted. "After everything we've done for you." "Done for me?" Ethan's voice rose. "You mean making me complicit in assaulting other students? In driving them out of school? In making me someone I hate every time I look in the mirror?" Principal Harrington raised his hands. "All of you, my office, now." "Sir," Ms. Rivera interjected, "we need to document this academic dishonesty properly. It's an explicit violation of the honor code." "I'm aware, Ms. Rivera." Harrington's tone was clipped. "We'll handle this administratively, like you handled Anthony Garcia's complaints." Marcus spoke for the first time. "Or Zoe Wilson's? Or the 6 other scholarship students who were harassed until they left Westbrook?" The principal's face paled. "That's enough, Mr. Johnson." "No, it's not nearly enough." Marcus stood taller. "Everyone in this room just witnessed Bradley openly admit to stealing academic work and attempting to sabotage another student. This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern that the administration has been covering up for years." Murmurs spread through the lab as other students exchanged glances. "I said that's enough." Harrington's voice rose. "All 4 of you, to my office immediately. The rest of you, continue your work." No one moved. "Actually, sir," Ms. Rivera said firmly, "as the witnessing teacher, I need to file a formal incident report. per the school's zero-tolerance policy on academic dishonesty and harassment. I'll determine what policies apply here, Harrington bristled. The same way you determined they didn't apply when Bradley and his friends put Anthony Garcia in the hospital last year. James had entered the lab, phone in hand. Because I have the email where you told his parents that Westbrook couldn't conclusively determine who was responsible, despite 3 eyewitness accounts. Shocked gasps filled the room. Bradley's composure cracked completely. My father funds half this school. You think some scholarship trash can come in here and— And what? Marcus interrupted. Expect to be treated with basic human dignity? Expect the school's own policies to be enforced regardless of whose parents donate buildings? Tyler grabbed Bradley's arm. Shut up, man. Everyone's recording this. Sure enough, several students had their phones out, capturing the confrontation. Principal Harrington seemed to deflate before their eyes, his authority evaporating as he realized how completely the situation had escaped his control. The board meeting, he said weakly. We're addressing these concerns this afternoon. After you've had time to control the narrative? Marcus shook his head. Every board member already has copies of all the evidence. So do 2 local newspapers. There is no administrative solution this time. Bradley lunged suddenly, shoving past Ms. Rivera to grab Marcus by the shirt. You think you're so smart, don't you? This doesn't change anything. My father will— Your father will what? Marcus didn't struggle against Bradley's grip. Buy another building? Write another check? That worked when no one was watching. Everyone's watching now. Security personnel appeared in the doorway, summoned by another teacher. Mr. Winchester, Harrington barked. Release him immediately. Bradley's grip tightened. You've ruined everything, he hissed. No, Marcus replied calmly. You did that yourself. Every time you chose cruelty over decency. Every time you thought your family name put you above the rules. The security officers moved forward, separating the boys. The power dynamics that had defined Westbrook Academy for years visibly shifted in that moment. The privileged suddenly accountable. The marginalized suddenly heard. As they were escorted from the lab, Ethan fell into step beside Marcus. I should have done that a long time ago, he said quietly. Better late than never, Marcus answered. The administrative conference room buzzed with tense energy. Emergency board meetings usually involved budget discussions or curriculum approvals, not potential scandals that threatened the school's reputation. Marcus sat with his mother on one side of the long table. Diane Johnson had arrived 20 minutes after Marcus's call, still wearing her hospital scrubs, her face a mask of controlled fury. You should have told me how bad it was, she whispered, squeezing his hand. I wanted to handle it myself, he replied. You did. Pride mixed with concern in her eyes. I just wish you hadn't had to. Across the table sat Bradley and his parents, Tyler and his father, Judge Prescott had arrived without his wife, and Ethan with his mother. The 3 families were noticeably distanced from one another, solidarity apparently fracturing under pressure. Principal Harrington entered with the remainder of the disciplinary committee, 2 board members and 3 faculty representatives, including Ms. Rivera. The tension in the room ratcheted higher. Before we begin, Bradley's father announced, standing, I'd like to state for the record that my son has been the victim of a deliberate setup. This entire situation was engineered by Marcus Johnson to damage my son's academic standing and reputation. A setup? Diane Johnson rose to her feet, her voice sharp with indignation. My son came home with bruises. He was beaten by your son and his friends. Ms. Johnson, please, Principal Harrington began. No, I will not be silenced. Diane's voice rose further. My boy earned his place here through hard work and intelligence. And this is how he's treated? Attacked because he's black? Because he's from a working-class family? Bradley's father's face reddened. "How dare you insinuate?" "I'm not insinuating anything," Diane shot back. "I'm stating facts. Your son is a bully who thinks his family name puts him above consequences." Judge Prescott stood, pointing a finger at Diane. "You need to control yourself, Ms. Johnson. These accusations are based on manipulated evidence and have been grossly exaggerated. My son admits to a momentary lapse in judgment regarding the chemistry assignment, but categorically denies any pattern of harassment." "Momentary lapse?" Diane's laugh was bitter and loud. "There are 6 other students who were driven out of this school by your sons. 6! Where's their justice?" Principal Harrington banged his gavel. "Everyone! Please return to your seats. This is a formal proceeding." The room reluctantly quieted, though the tension remained palpable. Diane sat, her hand now gripping Marcus's so tightly it almost hurt. Ms. Rivera cleared her throat. "With all due respect, Judge, the evidence of academic dishonesty was witnessed firsthand by an entire classroom of students. As for the historical pattern, many of these incidents were properly reported through official channels at the time, yet no action was taken." Bradley's father leaned forward. "Claudia, our family has donated millions to this institution. The Winchester Science Wing is breaking ground next month. I would hope that counts for something in how this matter is handled." "Are you kidding me?" Diane erupted again. "You're openly admitting you expect special treatment because of your money? In front of all these witnesses? My son," Bradley's father shouted back, "has a future at an Ivy League school. He's being targeted by your son, who clearly has a chip on his shoulder about students from successful families." "Successful?" Diane stood again, trembling with rage. "I work 2 jobs saving lives while you make money off other people's money. Don't you dare imply I'm not successful just because I don't have your kind of wealth." "Mom!" Marcus tugged at her arm, trying to calm her. "No, Marcus. They need to hear this." Diane addressed the entire committee. "My son works 2 hours each morning in the school cafeteria to help pay for his uniforms. He takes the earliest bus to be here on time. He studies until midnight most nights to maintain his scholarship. And for his efforts, he was beaten, humiliated, and threatened." She pointed directly at Bradley's father. "Your donations bought buildings. They did not buy the right for your son to assault mine. This is outrageous." Tyler's father, Judge Prescott, slammed his hand on the table. "I will not sit here and be lectured about privilege by—" "By what?" Diane challenged, eyes flashing. "Say it, Judge. By what?" An uncomfortable silence fell, as the judge visibly restrained whatever he had been about to say. Before anyone could speak again, the door burst open. James entered with a school security officer carrying a laptop. "Sorry to interrupt," James said, not sounding sorry at all. "But there's something the committee needs to see immediately." Principal Harrington sighed. "Mr. Chen, this is a closed disciplinary hearing." "It concerns evidence that's being deleted as we speak," James replied. "Security camera footage from the school's server is being systematically erased right now, including footage of the assault on Marcus." All eyes turned to Bradley's father, whose face remained impassive. "That's a serious accusation," Harrington said. "It's not an accusation. It's a fact. I set up alerts to notify me if anyone accessed those specific files." James turned his laptop around. "The deletions are being executed from an IP address registered to Winchester Investment Group." "This is unbelievable!" Diane's voice filled the room. "They're destroying evidence right now." Bradley slumped in his chair, while his father jumped to his feet. "This is a witch hunt. You have no proof that—" "We have all the proof," Diane shouted back. "What kind of example are you setting? Deleting evidence? Covering up assaults? Is this the success you're so proud of?" Mrs. Montgomery suddenly stood. "Enough!" Her commanding tone silenced the room. "This meeting is a formality. The board has already voted to enforce the zero-tolerance policy in this case." She glanced at her son. "All 3 boys will face appropriate consequences, regardless of family connections or donations." "You can't do that!" Bradley's father yelled, face purple with rage. "After everything my family has contributed." "Precisely because of those contributions," Mrs. Montgomery interrupted sharply, "we have allowed a culture of immunity to fester. No more." The room erupted in overlapping shouts. Judge Prescott threatened lawsuits at top volume. Bradley's father bellowed about withdrawing donations. Diane Johnson demanded justice for her son and all the others who'd been victimized. Through the chaos, Marcus caught Ethan's eye across the table. The other boy gave a small, resigned nod, acknowledgement that the reckoning they had both, in different ways, set in motion was now inevitable. The disciplinary committee called for a brief recess to review all evidence before rendering their decision. As security personnel urged everyone to clear the room, Marcus realized that regardless of the outcome, Westbrook Academy would never be the same. The system that had protected the privileged at the expense of the vulnerable was being exposed for exactly what it was, and his mother's righteous anger had ensured no one could pretend not to see it. After 30 minutes, that felt like hours, everyone was called back into the conference room. The atmosphere had changed, a grim formality replacing the earlier chaos. The disciplinary committee members sat with expressions that revealed nothing. Principal Harrington cleared his throat. After reviewing all available evidence, including today's incident, previously filed complaints, and newly surfaced documentation, the committee has reached a decision. Marcus felt his mother's hand slip into his. He hadn't realized how much this moment meant to him until now, not just for himself, but for Anthony Garcia, Zoe Wilson, and all the others who never got their justice. "Mr. Winchester, Mr. Prescott, and Mr. Montgomery," Harrington continued, "you have been found in violation of multiple school policies, including academic dishonesty, harassment, and physical assault." Bradley's father started to rise, but Mrs. Winchester placed a restraining hand on his arm. "The committee has determined that these violations warrant immediate expulsion from Westbrook Academy." The word hung in the air for a moment before the room erupted. "Expulsion?" Bradley's father roared. "This is absurd! I'll have your job for this, Harrington." Judge Prescott was already on his phone. "I'm calling my attorney." "This will be overturned by tomorrow morning." "The decision is final," Mrs. Montgomery stated firmly, "and unanimous." Bradley jumped to his feet. "This is his fault." He jabbed a finger toward Marcus. "He set us up. He wanted us to use his calculations." "Sit down, Bradley," his mother hissed, looking mortified. "No, I won't let some scholarship trash destroy my future." Bradley's voice cracked with desperation. "Dad, tell them. Tell them what you can do to this school." Ms. Rivera stood. "Mr. Winchester, your own actions in the lab today, witnessed by an entire class, would be grounds for expulsion on their own. The additional evidence only confirms a pattern of behavior." "What about him?" Tyler demanded, pointing at Ethan. "He was with us the whole time. Why is he getting expelled too?" All eyes turned to Ethan, who looked up with surprising composure. "I deserve it," he said quietly. "I didn't throw punches, but I stood by and watched. I helped cover it up. I'm just as guilty." His mother placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression a complex mixture of disappointment and something like respect. "What about college?" Bradley's voice had shifted from rage to panic. "What about Princeton? They can't know about this." "Your actions have consequences," Principal Harrington replied. We are required to report disciplinary expulsions to any institutions requesting your records. You've ruined me! Bradley lunged across the table toward Marcus. Security personnel moved quickly, but not before Judge Prescott grabbed his son's arm. Tyler, enough! The judge shouted. You're making this worse! The reality of their situation seemed to finally hit Tyler. His face crumpled. Dad, please, fix this. For the first time, Judge Prescott looked genuinely helpless. I can't. Mrs. Montgomery addressed the committee. While I accept the ruling regarding my son, I would request the board consider his actions today in acknowledging the truth and his lesser role in the physical assaults. Principal Harrington nodded. The committee has noted that distinction. Mr. Montgomery's academic records will reflect that he self-reported his involvement and cooperated fully with the investigation. Ethan looked up, surprised. It wasn't exoneration, but it was something. A chance at redemption. Cooperation, Bradley spat. You mean betrayal. No, Ethan said, finding his voice. I mean choosing right over wrong. Finally. Marcus had remained silent throughout, watching the scene unfold with a strange sense of detachment. This wasn't about personal vindication anymore. It was about a broken system beginning to repair itself. Diane squeezed his hand. You okay? She whispered. He nodded, feeling the weight of the past months lifting. Better than okay. Principal Harrington addressed the Johnsons directly. Mr. Johnson, I want to extend the school's sincere apology for failing to protect you and other students. Westbrook has clearly fallen short of its responsibility to provide a safe learning environment for all students, regardless of background. An apology doesn't erase what happened, Diane replied, her voice steady. But acknowledging the wrong is the first step toward making it right. Ms. Rivera spoke up. The board has also approved a full review of all harassment complaints from the past 5 years, with outreach to affected students and families. As the meeting concluded, the 3 expelled students and their families were escorted out separately. Bradley and his parents left first, his father already on the phone, threatening lawsuits. Tyler followed with Judge Prescott, who looked suddenly older, the power he had wielded so confidently now impotent against the evidence. Ethan was the last to leave. He paused by Marcus's chair. I'm sorry, he said simply, for everything. Marcus met his gaze. Make it count, he replied. Whatever comes next, make it count. 3 weeks after the disciplinary hearing, Westbrook Academy felt like a different place. The hallways buzzed with the same activity, but the undercurrents had shifted. Students from different backgrounds mingled more freely, as though an invisible barrier had been removed. Marcus closed his locker to find James waiting for him, grinning. Have you seen the school paper? James held up the latest edition of the Westbrook Chronicle. The headline read, Board approves new anti-harassment policies, creates scholarship fund for underrepresented students. Ms. Rivera showed me earlier, Marcus replied. The Montgomery Fund for Educational Equity. Ethan's mom is trying to make amends. Speaking of which, James nodded toward the main entrance, where Ethan stood with a woman who appeared to be Anthony Garcia's mother. The local news had covered the story extensively. Bradley's father had withdrawn his donation for the science wing, but 3 alumni had stepped forward to replace the funding, with the condition that it be named after Anthony Garcia and all students who face discrimination at Westbrook. Marcus had received emails from both Anthony and Zoe, thanking him for what he'd done and sharing their own stories of rebuilding their lives after Westbrook. Their words meant more to him than any official acknowledgement. Ready for chemistry? James asked, falling into step beside him. Always. Ms. Rivera smiled as they entered her classroom. She'd been appointed to head the new student advocacy office, in addition to her teaching duties. Marcus, a moment? she called as students settled into their seats. She handed him an envelope. MIT's admissions office sent this to me for forwarding. Something about their summer program for exceptional STEM students. Marcus stared at the envelope. But I didn't apply. I did, she admitted. On your behalf. After watching you devise that chemistry trap for Bradley and Tyler, which was both brilliant and slightly terrifying, I thought you might benefit from more constructive outlets for your talents. He opened the letter with trembling fingers, scanning its contents. I got in, he whispered. Full scholarship. Congratulations, Ms. Rivera said warmly. You've earned it. Through your work, not despite your circumstances. That evening, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with his mother, the MIT letter between them. Cambridge, Massachusetts, Diane said, trying to sound casual, though her eyes shone with pride. That's pretty far from home for summer. Too far? Marcus asked. She reached across to take his hand. Baby, I'd drive you to the moon, if that's where your opportunities were. I couldn't have done any of this without you. That's not true, she countered. You've always had this strength inside you. All I did was make sure you knew it. Marcus shook his head. You did so much more than that. You showed me what real dignity looks like. Even when things were hardest, you never let anyone make you feel small. That's the Johnson family special, she smiled. Stand tall, work hard, and don't let anyone tell you what you're worth. The doorbell rang, interrupting their moment. Diane answered it to find Principal Harrington standing awkwardly on their front step. Ms. Johnson, Marcus, he nodded. I apologize for the unannounced visit, but there's something I wanted to deliver personally. He handed Marcus an envelope bearing the Westbrook seal. The board has established a new award for moral courage and academic integrity. You're its first recipient. It comes with a monetary scholarship for college. Marcus accepted the envelope, feeling strangely conflicted. Thank you, but I didn't do what I did for recognition. I know, Harrington replied. That's precisely why you deserve it. He hesitated. I also wanted to apologize in person. As principal, I failed in my duty to protect all students equally. The changes we're making now should have happened long ago. After he left, Marcus sat on the front porch, watching the sunset paint their modest neighborhood in gold. His phone buzzed with a text from James. Heard about the award. Don't let it go to your head, genius. He smiled, thinking about how much had changed in a few short months. He'd arrived at Westbrook feeling like an outsider, someone who didn't belong. Now he understood that belonging wasn't about fitting into a broken system. It was about having the courage to challenge that system when necessary. From inside, he heard his mother on the phone, excitedly telling her sister about his MIT acceptance. The pride in her voice was the only award he'd ever truly needed. Tomorrow, he would return to Westbrook, not as an outsider or a scholarship kid, but simply as Marcus Johnson, a student who had earned his place and helped make the school better for those who would follow. He had risen above not just the bullying, but the assumptions and limitations others had tried to place on him. And in doing so, he had helped lift others as well. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.